Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this episode of The Straight Path. I'm your host, Feroz Abdul Rahman. I'd like to welcome you all today to our show. And as you know, with us every week we've got very interesting guests. Today we've got an extra special guest with us here today.
No, sorry, I have one more question if you don't mind, inshallah. In fact, I have two questions, but I just asked one, inshallah. Like you said, the most important thing is the practicing, not the labeling. So for example, you get with certain groups, they'll say it's obligatory for you to call yourself by this name. Or they might ask you about a certain individual. Is it from this group? You say, inshallah, like you said, Ahlul Sunnah wa Jama'ah. And they say, is it that specific name? And if it's not that specific name, they'll not take from him. And if you don't call yourself that specific name, although you practice the practice of that label, but if you don't say, I'm this,
or they'll ask you, or they'll say what shuyukh do you listen to? And you say, Sheikh so-and-so. So he puts you, just like in a grocery store, he labeled you and put you on a shelf.
It is very interesting and sad meanwhile. Because Allah the Almighty called the saved party and the people of paradise in the Quran, هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. This is the name which Allah chose for us, which is, I'm a Muslim. What is the meaning of this word? I have submitted myself on my will to Allah as well. Okay? Maybe, just listen to this. A man came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and this is a very sound hadith. It's fi Sahih Bukhari. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, have you seen if I just offer the 5 daily prayers and don't do anything else? Have you seen if I fast during Ramadan and I do not fast on any other day? And I consider what's lawful as lawful and what's unlawful as unlawful. By the way, this hadith is collected by Imam Muslim. There is another narration which is Fil Bukhari. Will I enter paradise? This is a very subordinary person. He just recently accepted Islam, and he said to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if I just offer what's mandatory, I'm not praying the nawafil, I'm not fasting on Mondays and Thursdays, I'm not giving extra charity, just I'm sticking to what's obligatory. And in addition to, I would consider what's lawful as lawful and what's haram as unlawful. Will I enter paradise? The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, certainly you will. In the other narrations, the Prophet ﷺ said to his companions, if any of you would like to see one of the people of paradise, he's one of them. While he said, the questioner said, I swear with the one who sent you with the truth, I would never increase to what you say to the fara'id, nor will I decrease. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ, once a person left, he said, أَفْلَحَ إِنْ صَدَقْ. If a Muslim would be able to fulfill what Allah wanted from him perfectly, even if he doesn't do anything extra, he will be truly successful. Successful indeed if he were to fulfill what he promised to do. So there is a minimum requirement, which is fulfilling the fard. Don't the other Muslim groups who are working with different names, but they are practicing strictly the Quran and the Sunnah. You see, when the most important hadith in that regard is Al-Irbad ibn Sariyah, may Allah be pleased with him. He said once the Prophet ﷺ gave us an advice, and we sensed from his tone that it was like a farewell speech. So we said, Ya Rasulullah, كأنها موعظة مودع. You sound like you're giving a farewell speech. Advise us. Give us more advice. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ittaqullah. Ittaqullah. Keep your duty to Allah. Fear Him. وَاسْمَعُوا وَأَطِيعُوا. Listen and obey. Listening and obeying Allah and His commands.
Yeah, I guess two questions, like the description of it and something practical. For somebody who's in the mosque, who's seeing, I've seen quite a few different things. How do you have the knowledge, you know who Ta'ifatul Mansura is, not by the name but by the description. So what is their description, and then how do you go about surrounding yourself with these people and sifting through all of the
I'm very glad
confusion.
You confirm not by the name, because today another party would pop up and would say, we are Ta'ifatul Mansura, and that took place repeatedly. As a matter of fact, even amongst the sects which deviated completely from Islam, have nothing to do with Islamic teachings, they call themselves At-Ta'ifatul Mansura. So it is the traits, it is the actions, it is the ideology, the belief, and what they are doing in reality what determines whether this ta'ifa is ta'ifatul mansura or not. Let me share with you the most important news in that regard, which is it is not necessarily one party in one country or at one time. So you should not say, oh, I'm going to Egypt because there is a ta'ifatul mansura there, or to Saudi. No, they could be in the States, they could be in Wisconsin, they could be meanwhile in Russia, they could be in China. So at-ta'ifatul mansura are people on the straight path who share the right belief and the straight ideology. Maybe they have never met, they have not followed the same sheikh, but they're following the source of this guidance, the Quran and the Sunnah. If you do that without having a name or being a member of any particular group, or if you are a member of a particular group but you're following this scheme, which is Al-Quran was Sunnah, then you are one of them. As far as recognizing them, we've agreed that it doesn't necessarily have to be a group that has a physical address. You go and you reside with them. No, it could be individuals. I meet Ismail, I look at him. His look number one tells me that this guy is trying to copy the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a good sign, but it is not sufficient though. It's true. It's not sufficient. Then there are several other procedures to find. He stands up in prayer. He prays exactly. Nowadays, every Muslim could have an access, an easy access at your fingertip to know how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray exactly, as you could see him. So what's your problem? Why do you pray differently? Why do you worship differently? If you know, yet you're still following your one, or following your sheikh, who base his view on no evidence whatsoever, then you are going astray. You're choosing to do wrong. And the severity of the mistake, or the bid'ah, or the sin, would determine how far did you deviate, and how far did you go away from the straight path. Main thing is, every time, especially for new Muslims, look, you have abandoned your faith, your religion. You have neglected what your parents are believing in, and this is a major shift. So continue searching for the truth. And if anyone comes to me and say, oh, we're going tonight to celebrate this. What is this? Oh, this is a very important Islamic celebration. What is it? This and this and that, without really, I don't have to name a specific event and say, well, did the Prophet ﷺ do so? Did he inquire us to do so? Oh no, but it is good. Who determines whether it is good or not? What determines this act, as long as it is an act of worship, what really determines whether it is valid or not, good or not, there is a reward for it or not, is the Quran or the Sunnah. So the bottom line is, what determines whether you as an individual or a group or groups are on the main straight path or not is belief supported by actions.
So I have one more question. Sorry
before we go on to the next question, inshallah, we're going to go on a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about whether it's possible to unite these groups, how we should deal with the groups that are out there, whether we should attack them or try and bring them together. We'll be back right after the short break.
Islam is my side.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to The Straight Path. Before we went on to the break, we were discussing the characteristics of the saved sect, and you'll find a lot of people out there. How do you go about choosing the correct one? And Brother Ismail, you have quite a few questions.
I have another question, but I'm just going to ask one now, inshallah.
Go on.
That basically, not in your own words, but what I understood, that whatever we agree on as Muslims under the umbrella of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we should cooperate on and leave off disagreements. Now in my community, or in most communities in the Muslim world, I found people go one or two extremes. Either they cooperate on everything, even if the disagreements are fundamental issues. Or even sadder is that you find that the fundamentals they agreed upon, but the differences are not fundamental differences, but yet they refuse to cooperate with each other whatsoever. They call each other names. This one's not on the right path, he's not from the safe sect. They might not even give each other salam. I'm talking about the West, that brothers will not give certain brothers salam because of the sheikh he follows, and he follows a different sheikh. When you look at the fundamental issues within these two sheikh, the fundamental issues are the same. It's only maybe in the branches, in the specification of those rules. So how could we give advice to our brothers who practice this kind of Islam, that even your basic rights as a Muslim they'll not give you due to in being a particular sect?
You see, this is very dangerous, and the danger of that lies in even within the same sect, the same group, which have started to judge others, and that, as you said, that they don't even exchange salam, which is a very serious thing. They have violated one of the rights of the brotherhood, which is a fard. They would turn around and they start accusing themselves and their own members and so on. And the sect will develop a subsect, and the subsect will develop a subsect. So if we differ concerning whether to put the hands on top of your chest or beneath the navel or whatever, that will be a factor to determine whether you are a Muslim or not. Shall I give you salam or not? This is very, very dangerous. And I really refer that to ignorance and lack of knowledge. Particularly in the West, many people have found themselves a reference that because maybe he knows some Arabic and he recites the Quran with a beautiful voice, regardless whether he recites it with tajweed or not, and you Muslim would find him as a reference. So you'd start asking him questions, and he would feel within himself like he is something without acquiring any knowledge. And knowledge is not to be sought by reading in books. I always say that the worst teacher is the book, because I can give the same book to 4 of us. Each one would understand sometimes different understandings. When it comes to religious knowledge, you have to learn it bil mushafaha, through reading before a sheikh, or taking from the mouth, the words from the mouth of a true scholar. And that's why when one of the companions once was on a journey and he got injured, he was on a battlefield, it was extremely cold and he was junub, he wanted to perform ghusl, but the water was extremely cold and the injury was open in his head. So he asked his friends, his companions, who were also the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is there any excuse I could use instead of using the water? Maybe do tayammum, do anything? Said, no, you have to wash with water. And he had a wound that's open. So when he washed with water, he died. So when they returned to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was very infuriated, and he said, قتلتموه, you've killed him. And he remarked saying, إنما دواء العي السؤال. The remedy for one who does not know, because not knowing is similar to being sick. You're in need. You need to take your medication to be cured, to heal. You need to learn the right answer, the proper behavior so that you would follow it, is to ask. Do not be shy to ask. And whenever you ask, I recommend for the new Muslims as well as the true seekers of knowledge, whenever you ask, just do not ask anybody. Ask a true scholar. And if I give you my opinion and say, well, this is my opinion, we do not recognize in Islam the opinion of every opinionated person because this is what I feel is right. No. My opinion, even the mujtahid, has to be based on a reference. Either from the Quran, or the Sunnah, ijtihad, qiyas, by analogy, or the ijma', the consent of the Muslim scholars of the ummah. Not just simply because I feel like this. The true scholar said, the real mufti is not the one who says to everything you ask him haram, because anybody could say it. Any person, even those who never studied anything in religion, whenever you ask, out of precaution, oh, you better not do it. Haram, haram, haram. You make people's life miserable. The true scholar is the one who really knows whether there is an opening or an area of allowance to say, yes, it is permissible, based on a reference. So it is your right, it is your Islamic right to say, where is the reference? The companions of Rasulullah ﷺ had differed during his life and after him in masail, but none of them judged the other as a non-Muslim, rebellious or fasiq or ignorant. If each and every one of them made ijtihad based on whatever available references they had, they respected one another. And let's say that one of the Sahaba is praying qasr, but in the presence of another Imam who's praying full, he would follow him out of respect. That happened repeatedly throughout the history of Islam. Those who have never read the history and did not learn the behavior of Al-Khulafa al-Rashideen and the rightly guided companions of Rasulullah ﷺ, their attitude and behavior will stem from their whims, from their desire. They all of a sudden find themselves leaders. And if I'm a leader, I'm judgmental. I know what's right and what's wrong, and I already have followers. But guess what? It won't be too much before one of your followers would turn against you, and he himself will start forming his own group and so on. But there has to be a great understanding amongst the Muslims, those who pray towards the same Qibla, those who believe in the 6 articles of faith, those who respect all the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believe strictly in the integrity and entity of the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We all are inclined into evil as a human nature. So we commit sins. It doesn't mean that when I make a mistake or I have some shortcomings, I'm a rebellious or I'm a kafir.
Did you find that when you joined or started practicing that you were put under pressure to join a particular group?
A lot of extreme pressure. I mean, coming in, a lot of us from the street of southwest London, there's a lot of things I think we need to learn first, you know, about maybe certain issues of mannerism, how to deal with your family. And the first pressure that was put on a lot of us was just group. Not only group, all these groups are astray. So it was really, really, really confusing in that initial stage. And later on, when you gain more knowledge, it becomes more confusing, because you look at these groups and you see like the basic fundamentals that they're supposed to have, they have, which is the same thing you practice. But yet you're being told, no, you can't listen to this group, you can't go to that group, you can't. So, I mean, that was the first drilling for a lot of brothers. And that drilling continued to such an extent that you could be on the deen for many years, you don't know what you're really supposed to know about the deen. All you know is about groups.
Yeah, I've heard some brothers who will, you know,
and I'm talking like even about knowledgeable people. They'll speak of very knowledgeable people making their best effort in a very bad way, and we don't know anything hardly.
This is totally the opposite of the spirit of Islam and the mission of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran tells us that we were so divided, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to unite us. He says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبِلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. اعتصموا, hold you fast, you all together to the rope of Allah, which is the Quran. The Quran, the guidance to mankind, and not to be divided. And remember, when you were divided into sects and groups fighting one another, and out of mercy Allah the Almighty have united between your heart. From the early stages and from the very beginning of Islam, Muslims have come from very diverse background. Bilal was a black Abyssinian slave. Suhaib was a Roman Byzantine. Salman was Persian, and many others from different backgrounds. So we do not recognize ethnicity. Unfortunately, I remember more than a decade ago as I was driving in one state in the States, and my driver pointed out to a church, and he said, I inquired about the name of the church, but they said, oh, but this is a church for black people. I said, well, what does it mean? So one of the audience said, oh, we don't go there. Why? It's only for black. In the 21st century. In Islam, we don't have this. Unfortunately, some people recruit these old habits with them. And I remember once when I was giving a lecture, and the vast majority of the audience was Afro-American, one of them popped up and said, could you tell us what was the ethnicity of Prophet Muhammad? And he was trying to twist the fact and say that he was African, he was black. Does it really matter? Alhamdulillah, we have the exact description of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But we too have a verse in the Quran which says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, which means we have not sent you but as a mercy, not for mankind only, not only for jinn and ins, al-alameen, everything that exists. So his mercy and his mission is not limited to certain background, color, race. And the Quran lays down these rules very clearly, and it says, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most noble one of you, the most honorable one, is the most righteous. It has nothing to do with race, with color, with richness, with the position in the community, with nationality at all. It is righteousness which determines. لا فرق بين عربي ولا أعجمي إلا بالتقوى والعمل الصالح. There is no superiority for an Arab over a non-Arab, nor for a white over a black, vice versa, except through righteousness. So we stated this very clearly, and through that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala united the hearts of the believers to avoid and overcome the most and the greatest problem, which is race. There is no racism, there is no language, there is no barriers between the individuals in the Muslim Ummah. Unfortunately, we skip this, we come to another obstacle, which is ideology. We all agreed, open any book of tafsir, you might find for the same verse different interpretations. Maybe Abdullah ibn Abbas would have a different interpretation than that of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and they're all companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they have admired one another the most. They have loved one another like nobody else, and so on. So if we differ, but based on facts, differ in opinions based on references, it does not turn us as enemies. Rather, there is unity through diversity.
MashaAllah, we had quite a few questions to ask, but we ran out of time. There's only a minute left. If you could summarize and let the audience take away something with them today.
Well, inshallah, I'll leave the summarization to the Sheikh.
Okay. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I agree, and I would just ask the Sheikh, how do you stay upbeat and not disheartened through all of this?
Seeking knowledge. Because Al-Imam al-Bukhari, as he was commenting on the hadith of Muawiyah al-Ta'ifatul Mansura, said, Ahlul Ilm. And Imam Ahmad said, Ahlul Hadith. Those who study the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you examine all of that, the seekers of knowledge represent al-Ta'ifatul Mansura. Because every saying, every action that come out of them is based on what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do. They do not say nor do simply because they think it is right. Rather, there is always a reference for everything. If there is a party which follows that, then this is also under the umbrella of the saved party, the victorious one, which the Prophet ﷺ have delivered the glad tidings concerning them as saying, لا تزالوا, they will continue to remain on the straight path, they would not be affected nor harmed by anybody of their opponents until the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to pass.
And subhanAllah, we hope that you can be on the straight path. Hope you enjoyed this show, inshallah. Do write into us. Until we see you next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.